Okay. Good morning and konnichiwa, everyone. A warm welcome to you from Michael Joseph Center here in Nairobi, Kenya. My name is Juliana Rotich, and I will be taking you through this ceremony and program today. It's truly my pleasure. This is an event that, not only it's an event, it's a moment and it's work that we are all looking forward to. We've been looking forward to this for a long time. The three teams from the various partners that you will hear about today have been working on this for a long time. So we're very, very happy that you joined us. You've joined us here in person, and also for those of you who've joined us online, konnichiwa and welcome. So this is the launch of a platform called the Spark Accelerator. This is why we're here today. And one of the key things about partnership and collaboration is that it brings forth revolutionary things that are needed for the ecosystem. And this launch will help to transform the startup ecosystem in Kenya. We potentially, therefore, stand on the cusp of history. The people in the room are not strangers to making history. So this is truly one of those really special days, and it's really an honor for me to be part of you, to be hosting you today. We have Safaricom, Sumitomo Corporation, M-PESA Africa, together with our implementing partner iHub and supporting partners AWS and Vodacom. We are launching this special platform today. And this is specifically for founders to be able to scale, grow, and thrive, and to bring out their businesses and also to just get to the next level. This is something that is a shot in the arm for ecosystem. As many of you, there are investors who are stepping back from Africa. Some are stepping in. Some startups are imploding. Some startups are thriving. Some startups are starting out. And at the end of the global financial crisis in 2008, it birthed so many of the startups that we know of today. At that particular time, no one would think that some of these startups would be the things, the unicorns that are today. So in the face of the headwinds that we see in the global economy, not only are there challenges, but in these crises, these are the opportunities to take up. And that's when the frictions and the problems that people are experiencing and where solutions can come in to assist and to solve for those problems become even more apparent. It's during crisis when it becomes important and clear to know how we can invest and make sure that we're setting up for success. Before we kick off, allow me to provide some housekeeping rules for the audience that are following online today. We are streaming across Safaricom PLC pages, and our hashtag today is Spark Accelerator. Please engage with us on X, formerly known as Twitter, and all the social media platforms. Our social media team will engage with you and respond. In staying committed to our promise for diversity and inclusion, our sign language interpreters today are Fiona Mweresa and Godwin Gitahi, and they will also be available on the live stream. The live stream is also closed captioned, so you can also turn that on if you need it. Without much further ado, and to give us more context today, I'd like to invite our Chief Business Development and Strategy Officer, Mr. Michael Mutiga. Welcome, Mr. Michael Mutiga. Please give him a big round of applause.
Good morning. Well, thank you, Juliana, for the introduction. So, my name is Michael Mutiga. I'm the Chief Business Development and Strategy Officer at Safaricom. And we'd like to formally say thank you for all coming here, all the leaders, the executives from Sumitomo, from Vodacom, M-PESA, iHub, Google, and PwC. our board members who are here, and all our guests here today. You know, it's difficult being an entrepreneur. And as Juliana mentioned, there have been challenges that have been seen in this market. A survey of startups in 2023 shows that 3 out of 10 startups fail within 3 years of operations, and only 1 in 20 actually achieve meaningful scale. Further, a report from UK Aid in 2022 indicated that approximately 400,000 startups and SMEs in Kenya failed in their first year of operations. The last 12 months have been challenging. There have been a number of notable startups that have faced severe challenges. There have been reports in the media around early and mid-stage companies that have scaled back or closed, reduced headcount, and have been unable to close funding rounds. These concerns are important to all of us because startups and SMEs are critical to our economy as Kenyans. There are 7 million or so small and medium-sized enterprises employing nearly 15 million Kenyans, which means that 1 out of every 2 employees in this country works in a startup or a small SME. One of the reasons these companies have failed is a lack of funding. But we have seen well-funded startups shut down their operations, and in a bid to understand why they've been unable to achieve meaningful scale, we have reflected as Safaricom on our own experiences. In 2015, our board approved the establishment of the Spark Fund, a seed-stage investment fund geared towards the successful growth and development of startups in Kenya. We have invested in nearly 10 companies so far, which include names like Sendi, Ajua, iProcure, Eneza, Link, and FarmDrive, as well as SocoFresh. Of these, a couple have faced challenges, including closing operations, funding, and other challenges like governance, sustainable business models, limited market insights, and an inability to achieve scale. It's a pervasive challenge across the ecosystem. And we as Safaricom realize that we can't fix these issues alone. As such, with the Accelerator program, we are embarking on an ecosystem approach. We are partnering with Sumitomo, M-PESA Africa, with the support of Vodacom, iHub, PwC, and AWS. It's a bold platform of visionary leaders seeking to accelerate startups in the country. We will focus on technology companies that provide solutions on pressing problems in sectors such as finance, services, content, and entertainment. The program will blend both technical advisory, mentorship, access to capital, and go-to-market support in a bid to spark growth and scale of these ventures and gear these companies up for long-term success. The program kicks off with a call for applications, and thereafter a 3-month training program that will accumulate in an investor demo day, where entrepreneurs will engage in with leading providers of capital and obtain funding. Thereafter, we will work with the startups and a pool of experts to help accelerate these companies in terms of particularly so governance and achieving commercial scale. Over the next 2 hours, you will hear from the founding and supporting partners of the Spark Accelerator, in particular Sumitomo, as well as listen to bold and visionary entrepreneurs as a roundtable on some of the challenges they've had and how we can support them in terms of building a robust startup ecosystem. I conclude and welcome you all to be part of this journey that will ensure that our entrepreneurs continue to innovate, create jobs, and transform lives through technology. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michael. One of the key ingredients of building a successful ecosystem is evolution. And having listened to Mike talk about the history of the Spark Fund, it is very encouraging that the lessons learned earlier, and we've been very open about the lessons that we've learned. We've been burnt I'm also one of those early investors that got burned with one of those startups. So it's really great to be able to lean on those lessons and to figure out the way that we could do this better this time around. And the relevant partners who are part of this journey to bring to evolve the startup ecosystem and to give it the shot in the arm that it needs is M-PESA Africa. It not only brings a wealth of technical expertise, but regional experience across 8 markets in Africa. Allow me to introduce the Managing Director of M-PESA Africa, and I think the first and only African FinTech Hall of Famer, Mr. Lopokoyit.
Ndegwa, CEO Safaricom, Tadao-san, General Manager, Sumitomo, Ori, really good to see you, the board members of Safaricom. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the fintech community, startup communities. It's good to see some, when I came in to see, I've been here 13 years. When M-Copa was starting, we were there, and it's good to see, there's not the startups only, but the success stories. To see Julian Kuehler here, to see so many companies that, were startups, but are very, very successful in their own rights, to the younger startups that are in the room and on M-PESA platform. But for me today, it's really, they gave me a lot of speeches to read about, but I think with startups, and there is a reason why I scribble everything on a piece of paper. It's because of how do you start as a startup. A lot of startups start with building tech. I believe startups should start with drawing something on a piece of paper or on a board, and until the front end loading is done, before you start actually coding anything. And that's something that I believe from the time I joined Safaricom. And I still believe in it. And everyone who's been in my office knows that there are more whiteboards, pens and papers than actually the actual tech. Because I think building the tech is easy, but trying to solve for real life problems in this continent is more important than the fancy tech. And if I use the words of the former governor of Central Bank, Njoroge, you say, what problem are you trying to solve? And tech and for startups, don't get too caught up with the jazz of Gen AI, of cloud, and there's so much nice stuff with regard to tech, but you have to go to the basics of what problems are we trying to solve. And there's a lot of challenges that are within this continent. I've been an entrepreneur since I was 18, and there's no greater time to be an entrepreneur or a startup than today. And the reason for that is everything is accessible. Tech is accessible. We have a platform like M-PESA. We have partners like Sumitomo. We have partners like M-PESA Africa. We have all our supporting partners. That ecosystem is now very well scaled and is accessible to startups. There's a huge youthful population. We've got markets available, so it's not just about Kenya, it's about the 8 markets in the continent. So a startup in Kenya can access markets from Egypt all the way to Cape Town in South Africa. That's 550 million people population that you can actually access to. And this, there's so much with regard to opportunities around, not just about fintech. There's a lot about fintech and, but there's a lot about education, the education sector, schools, agriculture. And let me give an example, just an example of during my holidays, I was in a farm in Kitale, and it's a chicken farm. But when I came out of it, I said it's a technology company. Simply because they were producing over 40,000 eggs, 97% success rate every single day, 10 workers, and everything was done through the computer. And from feeding, lighting, air quality, the air conditioning, everything was through technology. So when I finished having a conversation with the farmer, And this was in a 2-acre plot. I came and told him, you're actually running a technology company. And all that is actually synchronized on cloud, and their partners in Netherlands are able to see everything that's happening within the farm. So this just shows the opportunities that there are in startup. Don't get caught up so much of the fintech space, but there's a lot in the country that is there. There are platforms that we've provided, APIs, the mini app programs. We do have the super app and so many other channels that you can access. We have over 60 million customers, over 5 million businesses that you can provide services for. And for me, there is more innovation outside M-PESA than there is in M-PESA. I've said that a lot of time, but I'll add one more thing. It's about growth of the ecosystem, and it's not about growth of Safaricom or M-PESA owned products. The days of Safaricom and M-PESA owned products are gone. The days of building the ecosystem is now. And this is why the startup and this part of what we're trying to launch today, what you're launching today, is so exciting, because that's where the growth is. It's about solving, again, problems, and purposeful. And purpose is what is it's core to what Peter and Safaricom, always talk about. That purposeful innovation, the ability to provide solutions, and the ability to solve problems is what this startup program is all about. In conclusion, I just want to say, I strongly believe that this program will actually lead to other African unicorns being formed in the continent. And really, looking forward to the next phase of this program, because it's if we can, by 2030, have at least 10 African unicorns that have come out of this program, we will call it a successful program. The other bit for entrepreneurs or startups, it's not talked a lot, and I hope the program will look at that, is protecting your IP. Your IP is your valuation, and it is really important that you look at your IPs, and I'm sure in this program we'll be talking about how to protect your IP. It's something we've learned so painfully sometimes when you see a lot of our IP out there and being commercialized, and we knew where it started from. So I hope part of that you'll learn how to protect your IP. With that, I just want to wish you all the best in the startup program, and I think you've got a fantastic set of partners, and we're here and ready to support you accelerate and achieve your dreams. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sitoyo, for those inspiring remarks. Tech and product support is one of the key differentiators that the Spark Accelerator will bring to startups, and we looked forward to the technical expertise that M-PESA Africa will bring to the accelerator. Before I introduce the next partner behind the Spark Accelerator, I'd like us to pause and watch a short video. There's generational wealth, there's investment companies, and then there's generational investment of more than 400 plus years. One moment, please.
We are Sumitomo Corporation, an integrated trading and business investment company. We possess locations and networks that span the globe and a firm business foundation. We are engaged in global and diversified trading and business investments with personnel from a wide variety of backgrounds. Sumitomo Corporation is a member of the Sumitomo Group, whose business origins stem from a 430-year-old copper business. The Sumitomo Group's business philosophy, which has been nurtured throughout its history, has been carried on in the corporate mission statement of the Sumitomo Corporation Group. In order to achieve sustainable growth, together with society, we have identified 6 material issues and are working to address them through our business activities. In addition, we are further enhancing our sustainability management. By clearly defining the role Sumitomo Corporation Group plays, we are strongly committed to bringing about a sustainable society. The Sumitomo Corporation Group conducts a wide range of businesses performed globally, with 6 business units, 1 initiative, and regional organizations working closely together. we are widely involved in the business field of metal products. These include steel products for the automotive, railroad, and home appliances industries, and tubular products for the oil and gas industries. Moreover, we are developing our value chain in a wide range of fields. As for the transportation and construction systems business, in the fields of ships, aircraft, automobiles, and construction machinery, we are engaged in manufacturing, sales, and leasing. In this way, we are contributing to the development of a mobility society. In the infrastructure business field, we're responsible for infrastructure operations all over the world. Electricity, including renewable energy generation, water projects, and transportation systems are all vital infrastructure for society. We are also engaged in the development and operation of industrial parks, logistics centers, container terminals, airports, and smart city development. In the media and digital business field, we are engaged in cable TV business, TV shopping business, and digital media business. We are working on 5G-related business, mobile phone distribution business in Japan, and overseas telecommunications business. We are also developing IT solutions business. Co-creating new value utilizing advanced technologies with startups, we are accelerating company-wide digital transformation by leveraging our global business platforms. In the living-related and real estate business field, we are developing supermarket and drugstore operations and healthcare business, as well as food and foodstuff business, including vegetables, fruits, and meats, and providing building and living materials and supplies. Furthermore, we are expanding real estate-related projects, such as development and operations of office buildings, retail facilities, and residences, as well as logistics facilities and real estate funds. In the mineral resources, energy, chemical, and electronics business field, we are contributing to the stable supply of resources and energy by investing in upstream interests and through trade. In addition, we are engaged in chemicals and electronics business, including electronic manufacturing services. In life science field, we handle pharmaceuticals, cosmetics, crop protection products, fertilizers, and veterinary medicine. Furthermore, we will also focus on the creation of next-generation businesses with a grasp of rapid changes to social structure. The Energy Innovation Initiative aims to build carbon-free, recycling-oriented energy systems in fields such as hydrogen and green power, electricity storage, and forestry through combining next-generation energy, new technologies, and services with the power of nature. The Sumitomo Corporation Group will continue to enrich the world, society, and people's lives through sound business activities. Enriching lives and the world. We are Sumitomo Corporation.
And with that impressive introduction, it is our pleasure to invite Mr. Tadao Saida, the Managing Director for Sumitomo Corporation Africa. Welcome, Mr. Saida.
Thank you. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Habari za asubuhi, mabibi na babuana. Is my pronunciation correct? Thank you. 皆様おはようございます。Thank you for joining us today at the Spark Accelerator Launch event. My name is Tadao Saida, a Managing Director of Sumitomo Corporation of Africa. Sumitomo Corporation is a general trading and investment company of Sumitomo Group in Japan with a history of more than 400 years, as you see in the video. Our global initiatives were introduced in our video, so I'd like to talk about our initiatives in Africa and the aims of our participation in the Spark Accelerator. Our business in Africa began in 1954 with the establishment of an office in Egypt. And today, we have 11 offices in Africa, including South Africa, Kenya, and Ethiopia. In Africa, we have focused on the mainly mineral resources projects and large-scale power project using Japanese public funds and other resources. In this context, a groundbreaking initiative that is a clear departure from the past is in the integrated telecommunications business in Ethiopia, which is being undertaken jointly with Safaricom PLC and Vodacom. Sumitomo Corporation has been developing telecommunication services in several countries, including Mongolia and Myanmar, since 1990s. Utilizing their business startup experience and operational know-how, it has accumulated in the process. Sumitomo, together with Safaricom, Vodacom, and other invested partners, will provide high-quality telecommunications service to their people in Ethiopia. In 2018, we also joined M-PESA, an asset finance provider in Kenya, and in April last year, we increased our capital additionally. We aim to further grow M-PESA and create new business through collaboration with them. By utilizing their partnership with Safaricom, Vodacom, and M-PESA Africa, which we have strengthened through our Ethiopian operations, and M-PESA's business platform, we aim to expand our telecoms-related infrastructure business in Africa, while utilizing our own data and customer base. We are also working to create peripheral or related businesses. In this way, we are leveraging our strengths in telecommunications and fintech to develop businesses that contribute to solving social issues in the fields of agriculture, healthcare, and education in Africa. As for our internal developments, last year we established an internal committee to formulate and promote an Africa-focused strategy, creating a structure that will enable us to demonstrate our comprehensive strengths in the African market more than ever before. The Spark Accelerator program will be the core initiative to promote this Africa strategy. In terms of startup investment, since its inception in Silicon Valley in 1998, the company has established 5 CVC offices in the US, Europe, Israel, Hong Kong, and Shanghai, and Japan. To date, we have invested in a cumulative total of more than 300 startups with innovative technologies and business models. In CVC, we believe it is important to act as a strategic partner, not only in terms of financial returns, but also in terms of creating synergies with existing businesses. We also run a startup support program in Japan called Hacks Tokyo, which supports the growth of startups by providing mentoring support and linking them to our business portfolio. We are also involved in the design and management of the program together with our implementation partner iHub, utilizing our knowledge gained from Hacks Tokyo. Through the Spark Accelerator, we are deeply engaged in the African fintech ecosystem and hope to leverage our support and collaboration with forward-thinking startups to become the next bridgehead for business expansion in Africa. We look forward to working with a range of promising startups to expand their locally based, uniquely African businesses. Safaricom and M-PESA are both the #1 telecommunications and mobile money players in Kenya. We believe that combining their impressive businesses and customer bases with our diverse global business expertise will create unprecedented chemistry and deliver new value to startups. This value will, in turn, create innovative businesses, drive ecosystem expansion, and bring more convenient services to more people. By expanding digital financial services in this way, we hope to contribute to the development of Kenya, and by extension, the Africa economy, the development of human resources, and a more successful life for the African people. Thank you very much for your attention. Asante ni sana. Arigatou gozaimashita.
Thank you so much, Mr. Saida. It's really amazing to hear from Mr. Saida, and also to just see the breadth of expertise that Sumitomo has, because startups and technology these days are embedded in all of those industries that we saw in the video, and also, as Mr. Saida has mentioned, that they're investing in so many verticals in society, because technology these days is embedded in just everything. To round out our remarks today, I would like to introduce the leader of a business that is no stranger to transforming people's lives and businesses through meaningful investments. As a leader, Peter is a big believer in the power of technology, innovation, customer obsession, and excellence, really. He's always challenging us to be excellent and to do more for the customers in everything that we do. And last but not least, it's about driving meaningful change in society and solving not only today, but also tomorrow's problems. It is absolutely my pleasure to welcome the CEO of Safaricom. Please give him a big round of applause and welcome him on stage.
Thank you, Juliana. Good morning, everyone. It's New Year. It's 2024. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Yeah, I was hoping that you had a great Christmas and New Year, and you have energy, but that good morning was not very convincing. We had a quarterly business review yesterday, and I was saying to the team that I'm still trying to see whether I did enough damage, whether I can close my button of my jacket, but I think I didn't do too much damage. So good morning, everyone. I think this is a full room, and Mike Motiga, who owns this, was telling me good attendance. I hope this all the interested parties in terms of this agenda, because it's a very exciting agenda. So first, I want to start by wishing you all a happy New Year. It's been switched off. Okay, it is still on. It would be career limiting for someone to switch off the microphone. So I wanted to start by acknowledging everyone who is present. First of all, our board members who are represented here. Ori, I can see Karen Kandie represented. I don't know whether there's any other board member. Probably I should also acknowledge myself because I'm a board member. But anyway, welcome Ori and Karen. You know, you have, as a CEO, you always have to acknowledge the people who approve investments, isn't it? So without the board members and the board, we cannot be able to get onto this journey. So thank you to our board for your support. Then acknowledging the executives of, and actually all representatives of partners who are going to be involved in this Spark Accelerator program for First of all, starting with those who have spoken, Sitoyo, great comments about the power of what we can create, but also how we really transform customers or society through solving issues that affect them, and technology just being one of the enablers. Sumitomo, I was actually asking Kashiki-san, who is from Japan and visiting us, and who I know very well because he is involved with the Ethiopia business as a key significant investor within a partnership in Ethiopia. What they don't do. Did you see that video on the Sumitomo? I actually didn't pay attention to what they do. I was asking Kashiki-san, what don't you do? So last year we visited Japan as part of understanding the partners that we have, and by the invitation of Sumitomo. And when a presentation was made, they said they have 1,200 subsidiaries. So I was saying, poor CFO. Can you imagine if you are the CFO of that business? So anyway, but Sumitomo is a fantastic business. But what I picked up when I went to Japan is simply their passion and their culture and the way employees are wired to really live the purpose of enriching lives and actually making impact. So we do have a great partner in Sumitomo. And the biggest issue we used to face was, of course, the person could be attacked. So safety of and security of the salespeople. The money could be stolen. The dealer could lose all that stuff. Today is all cashless. Yeah, the dealer could, the retailer could be anywhere in the world. The dealer could be anywhere in the world, all reconciled through the M-PESA ecosystem. So if you are starting a business today, there is much more capacity and much more platforms to be able to leverage, which is fantastic. So I welcome all the partners because you bring capability and ability to enable those who will partner in this program to be able to have a much more hassle-free way of starting a business. So I also want to acknowledge Safaricom colleagues, media, and also the tech community who are here. So it's really an exciting time to be here this morning and to launch the Spark Accelerator. And we have moved from having a Spark fund to really going for the Spark Accelerator, because I think the statistics have already been shown about the failure rate, inability to fund and secure initial funding in particular to drive growth is one of the key issues. But we believe that the bigger issue is access to market, is the knowledge gap, is the skills that are required to scale businesses. So the Spark Accelerator, we are not just going to be providing financing, which is important, and capital is important for a startup, but really a broader ecosystem-based approach for supporting startups and for helping them de-risk their business models, setting them on a path to scale. And when we were preparing for this, I was linking it into the way a graduate program works. So you have graduates coming in, they go through a 3-year program. They are enabled, they understand organization, businesses, and so on and so forth, and they are able to unleash their careers. And that's the same way we see this Spark Accelerator partnership. So as our partnership with Sumitomo, which you've already seen, and M-PESA Africa, who you know very well, will provide shortlisted startups that come into the program with support to enable them access market, access capital, access technology, access product development, and all the relevant startup needs. In addition, we see it also as an opportunity for our internal but also external resources to so we see it. We also intend to use our internal and external resources to enable our shortlisted startups to scale and drive investor readiness. And the bigger point here is for Safaricom employees, it is an opportunity to support startups in areas of their expertise. So, for example, we have areas, we have expertise in product development. M-PESA Africa is one of the teams that are very good at it. Our M-PESA teams, data protection. We have a risk team that's very strong in data protection, in cyber security, but also our commercial experts in terms of commercial operations. So we'll be able to utilize internal capability, both in Safaricom but across our partner network, to support areas of need for these investors. So those startups who successfully graduate from the Spark Accelerator will also have an opportunity to be funded by us. We've already gotten approval, and I think Mike mentioned from our board, through Safaricom Ventures, which is a new company created to support and drive investments, early stage investment in Safaricom. So we'll of course choose at an appropriate stage, but we'll choose those startups that really leverage or combine innovation and technology to solve issues that affect society or affect customers. And so with the right support, the potential to grow and scale commercially and contribute to societal change, just like Safaricom has done in the past 2 decades, is really significant. But also to be able to unleash potential, and I think as Sito mentioned, we can create the next unicorns in Africa. And M-PESA started from as an idea similar to the way we are thinking about today. So I appreciate all our partners. I appreciate the core support from M-PESA and Sumitomo, but also our supporting partners, Vodacom, AWS, and PwC. And we welcome others who are in the room or outside, but also support in addition to the iHub, who are implementing partner and will play a very significant role. And you might ask, why is Safaricom involved? Innovation is in our DNA. In innovation, we have something we call Safaricom Spirit, which has 4 elements. Customer obsession, which is all about earning customer loyalty. Second is about collaboration. You cannot do everything alone. You have to co-create and do things together. The third one is innovation, which is what we are talking about today. But it's not just innovation for the sake of it. It's innovation to solve an issue that affects a customer or a need that society has. And then the final one is purpose, which Safaricom has always been known for, which is always about going beyond what our commercial objectives are and doing more for society, both in the way we run our commercial operations, but also beyond that. So innovation enables us to improve how we deliver value to our customers and respond to the dynamic needs of the business. I was telling a story when we were preparing for this about the Mobile World Congress, which many of you know, those who are in the industry. And although there's usually a lot of exhibition about the technology elements that are coming from within the industry, there's always one of the areas that showcase technology that is being used to really transform agriculture, education, health, energy. You see, and that's where startups really showcase what they are doing. So hopefully, in the future, we will see Spark Accelerator producing startups that can go and showcase what they are doing at a global stage. And as I conclude, through Spark Accelerator, we seek to play a critical role in driving innovation and furthering the reach of digital financial services, but also digital services in general in Africa. Spark Accelerator is anchored in our purpose of transforming lives, and in line with our ambition to be a purpose-led technology company. We value partnerships, and as I've said, is one of our core elements of our spirit in terms of collaboration, and we believe collaboration has been instrumental in enabling us deliver products and solutions in the past, and will play a very, very important role in this program, in this initiative. So, ladies and gentlemen, our goal is simple but yet powerful, to enable successful startups to gain access and opportunities that they need to be able to be successful. And who knows, our next M-PESA may come from some of the successful startups that will get to work and see throughout the next few months. So I wish everyone who is intending to participate as part of this, those who are in the room but also beyond that, good luck. But also I really welcome all the partners that are supporting us through this. We are on a journey to start an initiative that can really help us transform our society. Thank you very much. And welcome.
It's really, really wonderful. Thank you so much, Peter. It's really amazing to see that Safaricom is taking the leading role in being a catalyst for the tech-enabled businesses. As mentioned earlier by Sitoyo, there's so many platforms that are available now through Safaricom to help you build your company through setting up as a mini app on our platform, or utilizing the application programming interfaces that are on the Daraja portal, which is developer.safaricom.co.ke. A lot of the startups that are currently part of the portfolio of Spark Fund, and the ones that we're also looking at bringing into the Accelerator, are startups that already plug into our ecosystem. And to learn more and to see one of the startups and what the investment from the Spark Fund meant to them over the last couple of years, I'd like for us to watch this video from Eneza Education.
My name is Wambura Kimunyu. I'm the CEO of Eneza Education. We provide learning and revision materials via any mobile phone, any device. Eneza Education was founded in 2012, and then in 2016 we got this investment from Safaricom's Spark Fund. Safaricom invested in us because there was synergy between what we were trying to do and what they wanted to achieve. And number two, they are strategically very interested in education. One big problem, of course, that all startups will face is identifying who their customers are and acquiring them. Another challenge would be in identifying the right kind of strategic partners to work with. And corporations like Safaricom have knowledge about the customers, and they can share this information in ways that really benefit startups. My advice to other startups seeking to partner with Safaricom is to think about important intersections between what you're doing and what Safaricom is doing and considers important. Our vision is to be Africa's largest classroom with 50 million learners. We hope to improve the learning outcomes of learners across the continent, actually.
Fantastic. Thank you, everyone. Now, on the left side of the room, I'm standing here with several booths for the partners that are going to be here today. Later, you'll be able to come and have a conversation here with the M-PESA Africa team to learn more about the Spark Accelerator and also more about M-PESA Africa. You'll be able to speak to representatives from Sumitomo Corporation, who will be able to share more about not only their role in the Spark Accelerator, but also more about the company, and to really learn more about how to engage and to learn more about how to be part of this more than 430-year-old history, which is just really amazing to me. And last but not least, you'll be able to speak to the strategy and business development team that has been bringing us this incredible Spark Accelerator program. If you have any questions at all about what the fund, the Safaricom Ventures Fund is, how to be a part of it, what are the criteria, we have everyone here that is available for you. And I see that we now have our stage set for a very important discussion. I will now turn this over to the Chief Financial Services Officer of Safaricom, Esther Waititu. Over to you, Esther. Thank you very much.
Good morning. It's indeed such a pleasure, and the second week of the year, to come together with different, members of the ecosystem to see what we can do for the year. I think this is a great start and a great opportunity for us to be able to transform and do something different. So our conversation today, I'd like to invite our panelists to come forward. Today we're going to be talking about how we accelerate these startups in our different ecosystems. And so I'm going to start with our first guest, and that is Jesse Moore. I welcome you onto the stage. Jesse Moore is a co-founder and CEO of M-PESA, something that is a very dear partner. M-PESA is a very dear partner to us. It is a world leader of the most advanced and connected financing platforms, deploying over $1 billion, not shillings, dollars, in products and credit. Jesse co-founded M-PESA in 2011 and has overseen the company's growth to 4 million customers, 2,000 employees, and over 20,000 sales agents across Kenya, Uganda, Ghana, Nigeria, and recently South Africa. Welcome, Jesse. Next, I'd like to invite Julian Kula. Julian is an internationally accomplished business leader. He's the founder and CEO of Endemix Group, a Delaware company that has opened offices in Houston and Kenya. Prior to that, he founded the Mode Group, a fintech company spanning over 26 countries in Africa, Asia, and the Middle East, which was acquired by Digital One in 2018. This demonstrates that when fintechs come together and get the right amount of funding, there are people who can take this up. As a founder and chairman of Beulah City, Julian is involved in affordable housing projects in the Kenyan housing sector and sits on several boards across the world with links to global leaders in various sectors. So Peter mentioned that we should not make any career-limiting moves. So I'd like to invite our board director, and I must do this in the right way, Ori Okolo. Ori is currently a partner. Please come forward, Ori. Ori, aside from being our board member, is currently a partner at Verod Koppel Africa Ventures, where she leads and implements all investment-related activities, drives expansion, and supports partner companies with strategic and operational issues. She's a seasoned corporate operator at board level and currently serves in various boards, including Thomson Reuters Founders Share Trust, East African Breweries PLC, Stanbic Foundation, Adecco Group Foundation, and she is also a trustee of Van Leer Foundation. Welcome, Ori. I'd also like to invite Nisi Madhu. Nisi Madhu is a managing partner at Co-Creation Hub Limited Africa's leading technology innovation center, and specializes in reshaping education landscapes, an expert in strategy, project management, digital learning, and stakeholder management. Nisi has led over 20 programs across 7 African countries, creating impactful networks and frameworks that guide education initiatives across the continent. Welcome. So you can see we've got a powerhouse right here, ready to give us all the insights that we require to accelerate startups in Africa. Our panel today is going to discuss the opportunities and the challenges that present themselves when you're looking to start fintech organizations or to solve societal challenges. As you can see, the broad range of panelists that we have will definitely be able to give us some great insights. So as we go in, let me start with you, Jesse. M-Copper has really been a prominent player in the Kenyan startup scene. Maybe you can share with us a couple of lessons that you have learned in terms of scaling and sustaining successful startup businesses in Africa.
Thanks, Esther, and thank you. Can you hear me? We're okay? Good. Peter and team, thank you for the invitation. Saida-san and Kashiki-san, also your invitations. Toyo and team, it is a real privilege to be with you today. I'm very excited about what you are doing and we are doing for the ecosystem. And I think that's a really important word that I've heard from the prior speakers and in the context of the day. Here's how I'd like to answer that question. I've thought about it a lot over the last couple days, and I wanted to take a moment to think about Silicon Valley compared to Silicon Savannah, okay? And I want to offer 3 ideas about the 2 places. Yeah, one of which is why I think Silicon Savannah is doing something better. Why or where I think Silicon Valley can do something better that we can also learn from. And then in the end, where I really hope we take pride in doing something different in Silicon Savannah. Okay, so that's the way I'm going to answer this question. Number 1, and the real reason why, as a Canadian, I moved to Kenya 13 years ago to start M-Copa, was because of the difference which I think Satoyo characterized in his remarks. And that is that in Silicon Valley, and maybe this is more what I hear at a distance, but the perception is it is about technology that then is looking for a problem to solve. What I love about Silicon Savannah, and I really think we all can continue to take pride in, it is problems that then we find technology to solve. And it is to be expected, it is to be celebrated. And I think what this accelerator can offer, especially in the support, as Peter said, as Satoyo said, it's not just the money, but it is the support system for entrepreneurs and startups to embrace them and help them through hard periods. And I don't just mean failure as the end of the company, but failure is a part of a day-to-day journey as an entrepreneur. You have to change business strategy. You have to do layoffs. You have to find new investors. There's always a challenge. And that is indeed something that Silicon Valley celebrates. And I want to encourage us, and I think this program can help support. The third thing, what do I hope Silicon Savannah can do different? And this is a very Kenyan thing. I want to encourage us in Silicon Savannah to run and win the marathon, not the sprint. Eliud Kipchoge, in the wonderful Netflix film about running the 2-hour marathon, speaks about running into the pain. Running is pain, he even says. And it is running through that pain, not all the time of the marathon. There's highs, there's lows, but it is that pain that is not to be feared. And I equate that somewhat to failure, right? It's painful, but it is part of the journey. Silicon Valley is often about sprints. How fast can you be a unicorn? How fast can you IPO? How quick can you move on to your next venture? I'm personally not interested in that. Yeah? And interesting about Sumitomo, here's a company. I remember meeting one of their executives once, and his first question to me, I'd never met the guy. He said, Jesse, we are a 400-year-old corporation. Where will M-Copa be in 400 years?
That's an interesting question.
And so thinking of the marathon as really what we are all trying to do is the difference that I hope for us. So I hope those remarks answered the question. But again, running a marathon and building long-term value for our customers, solving real problems, and embracing that failure is something that I hope this program can really support.
Amazing. That's very insightful. I think that deserves a round of applause, really. It is true. It is very true that we struggle with failure. And as you can see, and Juliana did share the numbers, that the investments coming into fintechs from between 2020 to 2022, we're seeing that increase significantly, and now that's starting to reduce. And so embracing failure is one of those, and changing cycles is another thing that we definitely must consider. But I'm going to ask Julian to build on that. And so Julian, I'm going to ask you, because these cycles are familiar to you. They're not you know them very well. So based on this, what investment trends would you say you've observed for African startups, and particularly in Kenya, and how they've evolved, thinking about the theme that, Jesse has spoken about around it being a marathon and also being able to embrace failure. So just from your perspective, just tell us what you see the trends being.
Thank you, Esther, and thank you, Safaricom, for putting this together. It's really a joy to be here. I was somewhere on holiday, and Peter was there. I didn't disturb him because he was with his family, but I think he's explained why my jacket is not closing. One morning, how you have to have the right idea, how you have to turn down cash, because as a founder, you have to be very careful not to take what will not get you where you need to go. And what I'm hearing Jesse saying, which is very true, the whole environment is getting saturated with cash. But let me give you perspective. I read somewhere, it's either $3.2 or $3.4 billion came into African startups in 2022. And that's the whole of Africa taking up 3.2 to 3.4. The jury's out whether it's 3.2 or 3.4, but it's somewhere there. $1 billion of cash coming in. And this is 120 times what it was 10 years ago. Some of us have been in this, ecosystem of entrepreneurship in Kenya for about 20 years. So I've seen the evolution of what kind of money has been coming into the market, which means it's only going to get better in another 10 years. And so to have groups like Sumitomo that think of 400 years versus the kind of money that wants a return in 2 years, you have to be careful as a founder to make sure you track the right investment for, one, your peace of mind, but at the same time, because you're in an innovative structure, it takes 10 to 15 years to exit a business well. It's not a 2-year sprint or 3-year sprint. So 10 to 15 years, you'll probably have at most in you as an individual 2 times in your lifetime to be able to do 2 exits, if not 1 good exit. And that's if you really have to run the exit strategy instead of building 300 to 400-year-old companies. So that culture, that what Jesse is saying, which is he's being nice, is that the Silicon Valley culture, the American culture, is fast food culture, right? McDonald's, get a burger in 30 seconds, out, go do your business. But we have to understand, for the problems we have to solve in Africa, and what I believe is happening here, M-PESA and how we scale and the kind of money we make. So another perspective, then I'll close. In the world, 2022, the global mobile money transaction value was $1.2 trillion across the entire world. Everywhere. Mexico, Philippines, Africa. M-PESA 2022 mobile money transactions was $200 billion. So this small country called Kenya was responsible for 1/6 of the world's mobile money movement. that should say a lot to an entrepreneur and a lot to why these partnerships make sense, because if ambition is unicorn, and I don't think that should ever be the driver necessarily of a business, because naturally you'll get there if you're doing it right. But that tells you that you don't need to be in 30 countries if you partner with M-PESA. You could actually scale an entirely big business, in solving the problems we need to solve. Sometimes we have to go deep before we go wide, which is what I saw M-Corporate do, which is what we did with Mode. But M-PESA now, and the evolution of thinking, I've seen it change. Because when we started coming to speak with M-PESA, I remember sitting in Michael Joseph's office, and he literally was kicking me out because he was like, this doesn't work, this doesn't work. You've come from a place, all due respect to history, you've come from a place where you made it so hard for us entrepreneurs to even have a conversation with you, because Safaricom was this big giant everybody wanted to work with, and we couldn't get through the door. Now we have you guys come into our offices. I mean, sometimes I'm sitting saying, is this the same organization? They visit your office. They want to understand how we can scale. How can we do this better? I was telling my team, these guys are up to something. You better make sure they're being, but it's a culture shift that I believe for some of you coming in now, don't take for granted the opportunity you have to be able to grow significantly for then scaling across Africa. So capital is here, but choose the right capital for your business.
Amazing, amazing. I think, Julian, what you've said there is the spirit of Safaricom that Peter mentioned earlier. And also the ethos of the session we have today. It's a spirit of collaboration. And when you think about the global connections and how that can impact each and every one of us, the problems we're solving are our problems. They are Kenyan problems. And the only way we can solve them is working with people and not trying to do it differently. So very excited to hear that, and very insightful. So, building on the marathon, building on the fact that you need to think about a startup in a long-term point, from a long-term point of view, I'm then going to ask Ori to say, if we're going to think about a lot of these companies and startups in this way, how would you describe what processes and what structures a lot of the startups must put together in order for them to sustain and be able to ride a lot of these storms to deliver these solutions that will be beneficial to our society?
Thank you. Okay. Good morning, everyone. And I think that's a different question, but I'll just to build on something Julian said about the shift in culture. I think me being on the board is a great example of someone from industry, someone who's been an entrepreneur with a different perspective, getting onto the board. That's a big deal. And I think it's a testament to the shift and the approach Safaricom is hoping to take. Many of the execs, a good board member, there's a tenant, noses in, fingers out. The execs will tell you sometimes my fingers also go in, because I'm very excited about what Safaricom can do and how we need to change and how we need to shift. It's imperative. So sometimes I'm always sending articles and spamming them and all sorts of things, because I think we could be doing more and we could be doing things better. So one, I think I can confirm that the commitment to improve is there. I'd say the second thing, maybe let me speak wearing Safaricom hat first before my own as a board member. I think this is an example of the journey that we need to go in, and I challenge Michael on the team. We need to be a proper corporate VC. Not this Spark Accelerator, small money here, small grants there, etc. That we need to be a proper CVC. Our investors in our fund, we have Toyota Tsusho, we have M3, SBI Holdings, we have quite a number of Japanese investors in our fund. And if you see how the CVCs operate, and I'm sure Sumitomo does the same thing, and hopefully you become a CVC in Africa as well, that long-term view, you don't become a 400-year-old company without having a long-term view. So Jesse should no longer be Jesse should be addressing us not as a startup Is a 10-year, 12-year, and he's a company, and Cellulant, and many of these other companies. Our philosophy when we invest is, how are you going to be around 50 years, 100 years, a brand, not unicorn, not valuation, not all of that. And there's something, our investors from Japan, they're talking about 30 years. They're not talking about the cycle of the fund. Yeah, and so we have to say what value are we bringing, and they come to learn. And Safaricom, I think, needs to evolve beyond Accelerator into doing CVC work. So I think that is quite critical, because we advise entrepreneurs all the time. I think startups in Africa are the most advised startups in the world. Advised, accelerated, incubated, but we have to ask, where are we accelerating them to? And right now it's nowhere, because we're not having enough corporate partnerships. We're not preparing them for exit well. And so my next challenge to Safaricom is I'd like to see acquisitions, because in this market, if you're not building with a path to exit, the money will slow. No matter if you do everything else right, we have to either get them ready for exit or get them ready to be sustainable and profitable. So that would be my big challenge for you. And then I'll answer your question in one line. I think the one thing entrepreneurs could be doing differently that we're not seeing, and is responsible, I think, for some of the implosion is just startups are hard, macros, etc. Two things: governance, from even pre-seed, seed. Ask yourself, if I go out of business, or if I stop, will my customers miss me? So we're spending a lot of time on product market fit, on the technology, vanity metrics, month-on-month growth, etc. But you have to be thinking, if I'm not around, am I building something that my customers will pay in market fit, and then we move to profit market fit? Can I get people to pay for this thing in a way that will sustain the business? Because one way we're very different from Silicon Valley is, like I said, exits are not as easy. IPO is not as easy. So you're either super profitable or you've built something that makes you ready for acquisition. So that shift into maturity is something I'm hoping to see, and I'm hoping Safaricom can support entrepreneurs in that journey.
Okay. Thank you very much. And so it's a very good challenge. Great. So as we look to change and to adopt some of the changes that you proposed, governance being one of them. I think there's a very big part that, the education, the setup of enabling a lot of these startups would be. So Nisi, I'm going to turn to you, and then my question to you would then be, in the context of what we've spoken about, how can we then accelerate programs that play this pivotal role in shaping the success of these startups, and especially in the context of what Ori spoke about, preparing companies for exit, and what are the key elements that can contribute to their effectiveness?
Thank you, Esther, and good morning, everyone. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. I think just riding on the conversation that has been happening so far, I really like how Ori has put it in paying market fit. At CC Hub, iHub, over the past 14 years, and the way we've thought about and our approach to supporting startups and thinking about acceleration programs. For us, and with startups, it's beyond the products. It's more around what problem are you solving. That's the starting point. Because the very ethos of the organization is that we're able to see these solutions create shared prosperity across Africa. And so when we think critically about the problems that we're solving, then we're able to design the appropriate products to solve those problems. And so in the way that we think about our support to startups is 4 critical areas. The first one is around product. And product there, like I said, it's not just about the technology. It's more starting from the whiteboard, like Suito said. What exactly are you solving? Can we map it out? And then can we think about the technology, and can we innovate around ensuring that that technology actually meets the needs of the customers? And so it's not just about the shiny tech bit. It's also starting from low tech and what's available there. And then the next bit is around talent. So it's okay for you to have the brilliant ideas, but then if you do not have the right skills within the organization to be able to execute on those ideas, then there's a problem. So how do they access quality talent? How do they put in place processes to both attract and retain talent? And how do they plan as they grow from stage to stage to ensure that their talent plan can support that growth? And the third bit is around distribution. So it's one thing for you to have the product, you have the team in place, you need to get this into the hands of those that need it. And that's something Wambui said in her video. So, who are your customers and how do you acquire these customers? But then beyond that as well is something very critical that we think about is partnerships, corporate partners that can accelerate that, go-to-market and that distribution. And the last bit is around funding. And in that particular pillar, there's a lot that we unpack there. There's the bit around creating and accelerating access to funding, but beyond that as well is also helping them understand, like Julian said, what capital are you taking? What's it doing for your business? What are you thinking about? Are you playing the long-term game? And then also the governance and the systems and structures that need to be put in place to be able to attract investors and to be able to be accountable to ensure sustainability and growth. And so these 4 pillars are critical to ensure that, one, accelerator programs are effective, but that they can also dig deeper to ensure that they're actually looking at the critical things that can help startups to play the long-term game. And also we know that, like, Jesse said, in Silicon Savannah, it's beyond all of the shiny things. If we're going to ensure that startups and the potential that they have can work for us in Africa, we need to think marathon and not the sprint.
Excellent. It really does sound very profound, just 4 pillars. And one of the things I think from an exit, as Ori spoke about, thinking about governance, the key piece there is around how do you solve the customer problem, and then all the levels that then enable you to do that. So when it comes to, let's look at the third element, which you did talk about, distribution, and that's how you get the product to market. I think now I'm going to come back to you, Jesse, because the distribution piece is really important. So that talks to me around how you scale your business. When you think about how you scale your businesses, what do you think your key insights have been around how quickly you can scale and without imploding, or how you build a solid business based on the principles that Nisi has shared with us?
I'm glad you rephrased the question that way, because I think as it's written, as I received it, it talked about blitz scaling, and I was like, I think you dropped it for a good reason. So it's a very Silicon Valley idea to blitz scale, very aggressive and scale without any other consideration, right? It's not. There's a really funny thing, by the way. Reid Hoffman, have you heard this? Reid Hoffman wrote a book with ChatGPT. And he asked ChatGPT, please give me an example of a business in Africa that is blitzscaled. And ChatGPT said, M-PESA, blah, 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 blah. This is the first time I ever heard that M-PESA blitzscaled. ChatGPT is not always right, is the answer. We didn't blitzscale. And I think what I mean, or what's important in this is, don't scale too quickly. Don't be running a marathon, right? Or sorry, don't be running a sprint. You are running a marathon. And when you hit that pain market fit, which is a brilliant set of words I will now use, if I can, Ori, if that's okay. For a fee. For a fee. But when you find that pain market fit, of course you want to scale as fast as possible because you are actually helping people, right? But you also have to think about the marathon, and so I would always recommend not falling to the pressure, whether that's from investors or from yourself or from partners, to scale too fast. The other thing I would say in our experience is scale with others. And we are in the office of the company which we scaled with. Yeah, leaning into Safaricom's distribution and brand and technology. There are so many rails available that if you hit that pain market fit, and you have a good partnership, which we have had, we have been able to scale thanks to them. And I hope that that's in a way that Safaricom also gets benefit. These are usually when you're innovating, the good thing about innovation, you are not in a zero-sum equation. You're actually creating value, and sharing in that value and scaling together is the best way to go about it. And so don't scale too fast. Make sure you're solving pain, but then look for the partnerships, and it may be with others. It may be with Sumitomo or their other affiliates. It could be with AWS. It could be with, so many parties, but go together on that journey to scale. And don't use the word blitz.
You can see that's why I avoided it. I was like, no, listen, based on the conversation that we're having, it didn't actually show up. And I think the important thing is a sense of knowing your culture and the people you're working with to create market-relevant solutions. So that's really, really powerful. So, Julian, I'll then come to you. So based on what we've heard around how you partner, how you scale, maybe just one or two stories or insights in terms of innovative approaches that you have seen that have worked for this market, and maybe just to highlight a few of the challenges that they may have faced that, perhaps impacted their growth.
Okay. Let me start with challenges. And I'm glad to see Karen here. This is not career limiting for me because I'm not on the Safaricom board. Government, right? Let me speak to government for a minute, because it takes groups the size of Safaricom to be able to help us, not just in lobbying, but put in the right, and when you talk about CVC and what Michael and team may have to think about, we need some government interaction. I'm sitting in a group of, similar, fintech or tech or agri-tech groups, founders, and we get together. The greatest frustration right now for us as founders is government. One, we have to have a perspective. I was looking at what tourism brought into Kenya in 2022, because it's, we're always talking tourism. It's about 2 and something billion of this $3.2 billion in Africa that came into companies. Kenya was actually the highest recipient at over $700 million. But we're having innovator flight, because companies are selfish by nature in that they need to be able to find the environment that makes sure. So you will find, if we get over-legislated, and there's nothing wrong with it, but we have to be very wise around what are we getting into. If you're in the digital finance space, fine, we have legislation. Then you take legislation and blanket over 3,000 companies in this one legislation. I think we can get innovative and say, let's scale. If you're doing under $1 million, you should fall in this category. Let's help there be some innovation that doesn't limit us, because to ask a person starting up in 6 months to meet the same criteria as Equity Bank is very difficult. And if you're looking for investors, so we shouldn't make it more difficult. Fine, we must have data laws, and those should be followed. So as you look at Spark Fund, as you look at acceleration, one of the greatest challenges I think Kenya is going to have, because I'll give you a case in point. In Nigeria, when we were doing mode, we got a 10-year window through a group, an incentive called NoteUp. For 10 years, I didn't pay taxes. For 10 years, I did not. I was not categorized as one of those that had to cough up so much money. And what that did for us, it caused our Nigeria business to scale a lot faster than even our Kenya business. So my challenge to government is that there's a lot of revenue in innovating. And if we can innovate with innovators and allow growth to happen that way, let's not try to over-legislate, whether for revenue purposes and all, because I'm seeing that what other countries are offering. You're losing so many to Rwanda. They have offices in Kenya, but they're going to Rwanda, they're going to Delaware, they're going to other markets. Can Kenya work on becoming a hub that could actually see that if 1/6 of the world's mobile money transactions are coming from Kenya, we're sitting on something. And we could get a bit more creative on that space to make it a lot more conducive for us to build. On the part of what I've seen happening, we have a lot of trials, and what I want to just throw out there to anyone who is innovating right now, listening to groups that have matured and all, but those of you who are starting, so case in point, so we were going to launch our product 2 years ago. We had to get legislated, so you have to stop. You have salaries to pay, you have teams to build up, so you have to wait. And so if you don't have the patient type of capital with, and philosophically, when I look at some of the, Japanese philosophies, not just on funding, on the oldest hotels in the world, they seem to have cracked something about longevity. And it's what I'm hearing as a running theme here is, let's not be in a hurry, right? Because the younger generation is rushing so much, whether it's in their music, their creative arts. It's a generation that's in a hurry. But for us to solve the pain points and to solve the things we're solving, we've got to find the right partnerships that build us over a longer period of time. So we're having a lot of founder flights. If the tax environment is not conducive, we will have a lot of founder flight. If the space to innovate is constantly being embedded with challenges from the state, we will have challenges being innovative and we will lose out. So that's I think I focused on the problem. Let me just leave it there. Let me focus on the problem, Karen. We need to solve. For innovators, I'm fighting for them because you're going to lose a very large group of people that are extremely smart to other markets, and Kenya should not be in that place. They're extremely smart people in this country, by the way, innovating some amazing things, and I'm sure in the accelerators you're seeing those, but if they can have an environment that encourages that growth, what I've seen, and I'll speak to M-PESA now, and Safaricom. So when I first came to meet Michael Joseph, I think Safaricom was still a startup. So I don't blame their thinking. At that time, it was how much can we get out of this? How is our revenue share going to do? How is, they needed to survive. I think now Safaricom has realized that they are a giant that is responsible for an ecosystem that has to be built. In the plus, where I can add 10 shillings to a transaction for Safaricom in partnership and in growth and in the evolution, I've seen absolute growth in the thinking within partnerships and an understanding of the kind of people you've brought on board that are now understanding how partnerships can scale and work for the benefit of both parties. We now have a mutual ecosystem going. Can we expand that? Can we have more conversations like these that are talking about how do we scale that gradually and grow? Because if I can make the 10 shillings, and to Jesse's point, then can I make that 10 times a million per day? Can I make that 10 times 100 million? Do I have to get out of Kenya? And blitz scaling is a dangerous thing for companies. A lot of the young people I'm helping are all talking about, I want to be in 16 countries in 3 years. The question is why? Why? What's driving your why? Oh, I want to change the world. Okay. Listen, you have a business to run, stakeholders to manage. Make sure your scaling makes sense for the difference you want to make, but also for your bottom line. I remember we were scaling by client, and sometimes that's by force. So maybe I did some things with Airtel, and then they said, you have to launch Uganda, you have to launch Zambia. I was at mode, oh my God, I have to launch all these countries now. I was in Indonesia. I was closing a deal with a telco that has 180 million subscribers. And my phone was going off the hook with the Uganda treasury head in Airtel just saying, Julian, we need to fix this problem. And the problem there is you scale, but the smallest revenue earners give you the biggest headaches. So what you have to do is you have to be very wise in how you choose to scale, because sometimes your scaling can end up becoming your greatest detriment. And now you've got chief engineers who should be with you in Indonesia going to solve a problem in your smallest market. I hope that makes sense. So blitz scaling it can be dangerous. So please, as much as you have a good product, just move at a pace that works for your business and what you're trying to get.
That is very, very powerful. So, we have to make sure that we're working with, in pace, marathon. We have to make sure that we're also doing it with the right partners and going as deep, because you can't, if you're scattered across multiple countries, it's going to be impossible for you to actually generate the value that you're looking for. And the last question, which is going to go to you, Ori, is based on this, what regulatory or policy changes do you now think would enhance growth prospects for startups, just in the context that we've spoken about just now?
I think Julian answered that question maybe early. I mean, if you ask entrepreneurs across the continent, probably their answer will be government should just get out of the way and leave us alone. But that's it's not possible, and it's not even accurate. There is a role for government to play. So I'll start with sort of low-hanging fruit to my wish list in Nirvana. Low-hanging fruit, and there's controversy around Startup Acts. Are they really useful, and is it a waste of time? But you've seen examples where it's around tax breaks, where you're deliberate around research in Tunisia, which was the first African country to have a Startup Act, is also the first country to have the biggest exit so far. Of about, I think, it was 500, almost 700 million. And that's no coincidence, right? Even though it's a very tiny market, very low consumer spend, but there is an environment that facilitates sort of this maturity of the ecosystem. And things like that, it's less the act itself, it's the conversations that you have with government and getting heard in a formal way. Yeah, so the former CBK governor, he'd always say, Ori, talk to fintechs. They come to me after the fact. No one talks to me, no one looks for me, everybody, and then they're in trouble. They're like, oh, give us an appointment. He hated it. He's like, why can't you guys engage before? Form an association, lobby, etc. So I think the process of the acts coming together do allow for conversations to happen. And Nigeria, I'm a bit optimistic now. We have a friend who's the minister there. Let's see what Bosun does, founder of CC Hub. And I think that's also important. That many of us need to go into public sector. Again, it's no coincidence that you see, even in the US, with those guys lobby. Zuckerberg, they all lobby, engage, fund, spend on campaigns. You cannot exist outside and think you can operate in a vacuum. So I think Startup Acts and engaging in the regulatory process is important. So, and other low-hanging fruit is digital infrastructure and just infrastructure, period. So, basics, electricity, not sitting in traffic jams, all of these things. And finally, growing the economy. One of the reasons startups struggle here, and if I was to say, last word, to be really successful, many have to be thinking, are you building for Africa and for the world? Because our markets are still small. Maybe Egypt and South Africa have actual consumer spend that can sustain B2C. Yeah, so you end up in a B2B or B2B2C or in lending to be successful as a startup here. If we grow, and we have to grow, and even Kenya, for instance, could easily be at 10% with our eyes closed. We're at 6% with so much chaos going on. So imagine if we were 10, sustained double-digit growth. Because growing the GDP, growing consumer incomes will allow startups to thrive. So again, I would love the conversation around what's needed for policy for startups, not just to treat tech as a side thing, but to take it seriously as a critical, as he was saying, The way we're investing in tourism right now, we need to go back to the drawing board and say tech industry as a service, as a contributor to GDP, how can we take it seriously? Low-hanging fruit. Next level, mobility. And hopefully we fix the issues around the ETA. But being able to move across the continent is something I wish all African countries would embrace, at least for Africans, should be visa-free. It's important for talent, it's important for business, it generates a lot of consumer spend if you can move around easily. These young people, they're in a rush, etc., but they spend. I love it, and they spend here. They travel, they go to Uganda, they buy product, there. And so if we, Nyege Nyege Festival, all these things, yeah? If we make travel easier, we're unleashing a new kind of consumer spend that tech companies can be at the forefront of enabling as well. So that's low-hanging fruit. Nirvana, research. There is no successful entrepreneurship ecosystem. You don't get 400-year-old companies without sustained investment in research, government-driven research, actually. In fact, all of the key innovations that have happened in tech that move the needle started with government research, government-driven research. And if there's a country I would say we should be modeling around is India. They're doing research. They have decided how they want the venture ecosystem to work for India. So you can only do local currency investment as an investor there, which is huge. Many of us are struggling. It's dollar denominated. Your currency gets devalued. Your companies are growing top line, wiped out bottom line just because of a devaluation, because of a war in Ukraine that had nothing to do with anything you're doing here. Yeah, so figuring out, India is spending a lot of time figuring out, to the extent money is coming in, how does it come in a way that protects the entrepreneurs? And I think there's something we could learn from the approach to research, to manufacturing. They're making a big bet on manufacturing, and to protecting the entrepreneurs, so that the system evolves not based on other models, but based on the model that makes sense for them and for us. So that's those, but that's like my top, like nirvana if we got there. But there's low-hanging fruit things we could be doing.
I love how you've categorized them by, low-hanging fruit and nirvana, but I think all of them are actually quite relevant. And I believe we've run out of time. So in closing, I'm just going to ask Nisi, with everything that we've heard around what policy can do for us, how we can then scale our businesses, thinking about it as a marathon, how do you then see your role as an accelerator then evolving in order to address some of these needs?
Thanks, Esther. And just quickly, as you've mentioned, we've run out of time. I think what I like the most about the Spark Accelerator is this ecosystem approach. And, I've heard a lot of the panelists mention this as well. And so for us, it's playing the role of that ecosystem enabler, because we do have that large community of the startups. We understand what their pains are, and we're there to support them. And so it's saying, within this ecosystem, how do we support them to connect to key partners that can play critical roles, whether through mentorship or providing resources or network, and even within the policy conversation as well, bringing the startups together and saying, what are our pain points, what do we want to see, and how can we have one voice and approach government and say, these are policies that we need you to put in place. How can we work together to be able to make this happen? So in a single sentence is that ecosystem enabler, bringing all the parties together and then finding ways that we can collaborate, of course, for the betterment of the startups and for the larger ecosystem.
Wonderful. And the part on research that was mentioned, I think you can actually play a very, very big role, because you then can also be able to present a lot of this collective feedback that helps to shape policy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Great. So thank you, Jessie, Julian, Ori, Nisi. It was very, very insightful. And I hope you have taken away in the Kenyan spirit that this is a marathon, not a sprint. And to embrace failure is also something that we really must do. So with that, I say thank you, and we close. Thank you so much.
That was one of the most brilliant conversations for us to begin the year. and just checking online to see the various comments that we're getting about the Spark Accelerator. Thank you, Wamboi. And she says, if this year you decided that you're being more intentional with your business and it's in the early days, then Spark Accelerator is for you. So thank you, Wamboi, for that comment. And for those who are watching online, please do continue to engage with us. We would love to hear your thoughts, your questions, and also your takeaways. There's so many gems from the conversation that has just happened. It's sort of like if I was been a founder before, and if I was to start over again and do another startup now, in this particular environment, I would feel so much better supported with the insights, and you would not be starting from scratch, literally not from starting from scratch. So if you're joining us on the live stream now, save that link and watch it from the beginning to the end, because there is a masterclass right there of what to do, what not to do, what to be careful about, and what to focus on. So we are now ready, and at this point, we would like to hear more from a company that has also gotten investment from the Spark Fund, and they're also looking forward to what this accelerator will be able to do for them. SocoFresh. Please, let's take a moment to look at our screens.
My name is Dennis Karema. I'm the CEO of SocoFresh. SocoFresh is a company that works with smallholder farmers, providing them with access to markets and access to solar-powered cold storages. SocoFresh got an investment from Spark Fund 2. We were fundraising for a seed investment, and we were able to go through the process and close on the investment. Part of it was on access to Safaricom products that we needed as part of our scale-up, because as a startup, you're always thinking about your customers, your product market fit, and corporates can provide very good channels for you to reach your customers. In addition to that, we also got to have a strategic collaboration with DigiFarm, and that has helped us to be able to reach more farmers. My advice to startups seeking to partner with Safaricom: know what you want. The other one is you need to have some patience, and then work with either the Safaricom advisors or the board members that Safaricom has allocated to you to be able to reach the right people and to be able to fast track those processes.
Fantastic. And just checking in online again with more of the comments. Thank you, Daniel and Jiu, who mentions Julian Kuehler's comments. That is powerful. Founders have to spotlight their growth ambitions in order to be sustainable in the long run. And from Andrew Young, this gives a path for innovation from start, grow to scale. And again, the hashtag is #Spark Accelerator. We'd love to hear more from you about your comments and your reactions to what you've heard today. And it's really, and we thank you for your patience. We still have just a few more items to cover, but this next discussion is going to be a very important one that we're very excited to bring to you, and it will be moderated by our head of Safaricom Ventures, Karanja Gishiri. I'll turn it over to you now to take it away. Thank you. Please give him a round of applause.
Good morning. Good morning. Very good. I love the energy, but one more time, good morning. Aren't you excited? You know, in my peers would say, tuko na furaha, we are happy, right? But furaha in other contexts. But I'm very privileged and happy today to moderate this session that focuses around corporate partnerships. We have heard a lot about from the entrepreneurs and why it's important to partner. And with us today, I'd like to introduce my panelists. I'll kick off with John from Google. John Kimani. John? Okay. Oh yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, John. John, as he comes up on stage, John is a senior program manager with the developer ecosystem at Google, leading developer engagement programs across sub-Saharan Africa. John is passionate about technology-driven innovation and has spent the last decade supporting developers in Africa to build successful products and startups. A warm welcome to John, please. Excellent, excellent. Next on stage is Hagiso, Dr. Hagiso. Dr. Hagiso Rapetswa, as she comes on stage, is a seasoned entrepreneur, business executive and academic who brings a wealth of experience to SME development at Vodacom. Hagiso is currently serving as executive head at Vodacom's acceleration unit and is instrumental in finding ways to catalyze new revenues and new revenue streams, and is at the forefront of Vodacom's innovation. Not only is she a successful executive, but she recently graduated with her PhD in information and electrical engineering to complement her corporate success. Welcome, Hagiso. Next on stage is Mr. Katsuya Kashiki. If you want to see a distinguished leader, is one walking up on stage. Mr. Kashiki is a distinguished corporate leader at Sumitomo Corporation and holds a position of General Manager of the Smart Communication Platform Business Division. Mr. Kashiki's experience and expertise is in handling a diverse regional responsibilities, significant work within Central Eurasia and Moscow. He continues to contribute. His notable contributions are in IT, telecommunications and market development, and has a robust understanding, and with him he brings over 30 years of corporate development, more so in the fields of ICT and telecommunications. A warm welcome to Mr. Kashik. Next on stage is Mr. Job Kiboshi. We love to call Job the taxman, but because he is really the tax expert in Africa. Job is a partner at PwC within the tax division and is the head of indirect tax for PwC Africa, and brings with him 2 decades of experience on matters tax across the continent. Not only is he a taxman, as I call him, but he also wears a special hat within PwC as a startup sponsor within PwC. So this initiative for startups within PwC is sponsored by Job in East Africa, and we really wish to thank you for that visionary, that vision that you have within PwC. So a warm welcome to Job. Last but not least is Felix Kamenga. Felix is, as he walks on stage, he is the Chief Operating Officer for M-PESA Africa, and brings with him 18 years of industry experience in telecommunications across Africa. Welcome, Felix. Thank you. I'll kick off with Google. We've been talking about partnerships and the importance of why it's important for startups to partner, and from the theme that we have today around ecosystems. And I want to perhaps focus on Google. Google is this giant that was a startup 20 years ago. But what is interesting about Google, and maybe John, if you could shed some light, is how does Google tailor its support towards startups in Africa? And what's your vision around supporting startups in Africa?
Thank you for that question, and thank you for having me. We've been running startup support programs in Africa for the last 10 years or so. And during that period of time, we've learned a lot about the nuances of different markets and the challenges, opportunities in these markets as well. And this has allowed us to tweak and refine our programming as we go along. At the onset, we used to have a number of programs that would run in different countries. And in our minds, we're thinking that it makes sense to have a unique offering in each country. And over time, we realized that not only were we stretching ourselves so thin, we're also not being very effective in our programming. And so what we did is that in 2018, we consolidated our offerings to startups under the Accelerator Africa umbrella, which allows us to provide African startups with what we call the best of Google, which is basically access to not just Google's technology, but also Google's people, networks, and value as well. So what we've done that this program is to design the program in such a way that it speaks to the needs of each market and the countries that the founders are coming from. So for example, one of the things that we did is that we spent a lot of time deciding what would be our core offering for the program. And we settled on mentoring as one of the key things that we're able to bring to the table. And what we've done is that we've designed the program in such a way that there's a 30-70% split between workshops and mentoring. We have also spent a lot of time in building a Pan-African mentor network where we bring in not just Google employees, but also founders, business experts who've gone before, domain experts who understand the different markets really, really well and can help us in supporting these companies. We believe that the biggest value that we can bring to the table as a technology company is technical conversations. And so we try and complement the technical conversations that we're having with these sorts of expertise from industry mentors. Something else that we've done is really spent a lot of time on the value of community, right? As we're building these programs and as we're running these initiatives across the continent, we spend a fair amount of time as well creating moments where the founders and the teams in these startups can come together and learn from each other, right? And so we play the role of a convener in different cities across Africa where we set up moments, we set up events, we set up networking sessions where the founders can meet. They can meet with alumni as well, companies that have gone before in the program, and they can share knowledge and learn from each other. Finally, we've also learned that we can't do this alone. And so we've established what we call the Google for Startups Partner Network, where we reach out to other ecosystem enablers as well. We've partnered with tech hubs and accelerators who have a sort of similar vision with us, which is really enabling the ecosystem within which we operate. We believe that we're only as successful as the ecosystem around us. And so it makes a lot of sense to ensure that tech companies around us are thriving and growing as well by building on Google's platforms. And so from that partnership perspective, we've got a network of partners globally, and specifically here in Kenya, we've been working with iHub for the last 10 years or so, for example. And so it makes me very happy to see that Safaricom as well will be working with iHub on the Spark Accelerator.
Thank you very much. And we're speaking of Africa, and allow me to segue to M-PESA Africa. And considering the transformative impact of M-PESA Africa, Felix, how do you foresee M-PESA Africa's role within the Spark Accelerator in catalyzing innovation and growth for startups?
Thank you for the question, and thank you for having me. I think maybe my starting point is really why we are best placed to participate. M-PESA Africa has been set up between Safaricom and Vodacom to help the existing market scale, bring new products, to help them bring new products. I think there is a growing realization that within all the markets that we need to change the way we've actually worked. And the previous panel was actually highlighted some of the challenges they had when they interacted and engaged telcos, where we used to sort of have a go at it alone mentality, and we are now transforming that to basically be to a more ecosystem play. So instead of wanting to play every sport in the field, we are now looking at how do we grow through partnerships, and that we believe is probably the ideal way for us to create the right win-win situation. And I think today is testament of that, where we have Sumitomo and we're looking at how we can basically engage others. The list of the things we can do to help is actually very long. I could spend literally the rest of this session talking about how we can help. But I want to really crystallize it to the tangibles. The previous panel spoke very eloquently about some of the challenges. And I want to pick up on Director Ori's comment that African startups have been advised enough. And Julian also spoke about how there are so many hurdles, whether it's tax and so forth. And I think the way we want to position ourselves in this venture is how do we, from a real tangible enablement, beyond just talking, how can we bring to the front technologies that will help? We have the API gateway. We have mini apps from a technology perspective, and really bringing tangible technologies that will actually assist startups immediately. We also can help considerably in giving access to new markets. We work across several markets wherever M-PESA is, and I think we're also poised to, because it's such a big brand, we can actually assist the startups by helping them leverage our big brand. As I said, the list is not exhaustive. We have access to markets, distribution. We've got a wealth of experience that we are actually bringing to the party. And the most important part is really the partnership and creating those ecosystems that will allow the startups to, well, the term scale, slowly scale and build up what they need to do. So trusting them to do what they need to do, and us making sure that we provide the right environment, the right tools, and the right processes for them to be able to succeed.
Thank you very much. And when you talked of a wealth of experience and a wealth of knowledge, I think we all agree in the room that Sumitomo does carry that. But Mr. Kashiki, I'm curious around Sumitomo's role that we want to play in Africa, and specifically, as a global corporation, what's your view around fostering innovation in the African continent?
Thank you, Garanja-san, for the questions. And before answering to these questions, I want to thank you for all the staffs prepare this event. So I know how difficult it is, but even in the middle of the event, that I want to appreciate all the effort that all the staff prepare for this event. And what Sumitomo would like to bring this program, as you saw the video or the beginning, and also the explanation by the Saida-san. And also I very much appreciated the good words from the Peter-san and the Jesse-san about the Sumitomo's value. So we are very much serious to perform more than you expect. So this is first message I want to say. So we, Sumitomo, as a global company, want to bring our global business portfolio across the multiple business industries. And also we want to create the synergy between those companies. So all those partners are Sumitomo's partner. Sumitomo's partner is your partner. You can utilize our network to multiple the relationship. And also, as you see in the video, that we have the CVC all over the world, and also the startup acceleration business in Japan and other countries. Not always our approach is successful. There are various failures. So we learned a lot from that failures. So I think Jesse-san mentioned that failure is good to continue the effort to make a bigger success. But of course, avoid that mistake. If you can share that failure and make that business model more splendid. So I think Sumitomo can work to bring those international experience and experience of the failures to make startups successful. That's what I message.
Thank you very much. And it's a very interesting segue to Dr. Kagiso, because reflecting on failure and reflecting on experiences as Vodacom, as a lead within Vodacom's Startup Acceleration Unit, or the broader Acceleration Unit, you've over time been able to draw critical lessons and almost critical components that we need to build. So if I may ask you the question, what are some of the critical components that Vodacom Group has learned that are needed to build a robust and sustainable fintech ecosystem in Africa?
Thanks, Karanja. So Vodacom is a pan-African company. And across all our operating companies, across all the 8 markets, we have seen that at the core of what we do is SMMEs. So SMMEs are critical to our business. What we have seen is that we as a group understand how to grow and scale businesses. We can look at Safaricom as an example. We can look at M-PESA Africa as another such example. There are many examples we can further look into around the products that we have developed. What we've learned is that markets are different. We may have a framework that works in one market, but we need to look into specific market nuances and see how to adapt our offerings for those specific environments. FinTech itself is very broad, and while we see that as an opportunity and a growth accelerator for the continent, again, we need to look specifically at what are the specific market needs. So for us, what we have learned is that a success in one area can be a success in another area. However, it needs to look into the specific market requirements. So we have been building businesses. We've also been building hubs such as the one that we are launching today. From that, we are saying that we want to enable cross-learning across the different markets, and in doing that, mature the fintech industry. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And last but not least is to Job. You know, Vodacom, Sumitomo have had that extensive experience in building corporates. For many in the room would wonder, why would PwC be getting into the business of startups? We know you to be, in high corporate type, engagements. So in the context of strategic partnerships, Job, how does PwC envision its role in providing, advisory consulting services to this, not only to the Spark Accelerator, but to the wider startup ecosystem?
Yeah, thank you, Karanja, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I think I have a very tough question from you because, first of all, you've teed it up that PwC is known for big corporates. But at the same time, we've been told startups have been advised enough. So I don't know whether there's still a role for PwC. But on a serious note, so I think we're excited about the startup ecosystem for a couple of things. And the fundamental one is because what startups and what accelerator programs like Spark are trying to do is something that actually resonates with our purpose as a firm. So solving important problems in society. So you can look at it in 2 lenses. So we've had startups having challenges, startups failing, and we're business partners. We're known to be business partners. So what are we doing as PwC to come into this space and actually help startups not fail, or more startups actually succeed? At the same time, startups, and especially in this part of the world, are there to solve for certain problems in the society that we are citizens of. So that's how come we as PwC are passionate about this, because startups are solving for health tech, they're solving for fintech, they're solving for access to education as well. Yeah, so that's something that we are really passionate about. And Karanja, that's how come I then reached out to Michael and yourself, saying, you know what, we love what you're doing, we want to be part of it. So Peter, I'm hoping that we can get our name on the flyer soon. Eh? But then comes in the question of what does then PwC bring into this ecosystem? And I think the concept of ecosystem really resonates with us because we've toyed around with the idea of actually coming up with our own accelerator. There are things we are good at, but there are things that we also appreciate other business partners are better at, and that's how come we are really ready to get into this relationship with Safaricom, Sumitomo, and the other partners that are getting this going. We're not going to reinvent the wheel. We are known for certain capabilities as a firm. So, and that's what we want to bring to bear as far as the ecosystem is concerned. And I'm a tax partner, so I'll start off with tax. Tax and legal, yeah? So the basics of how then a business excels is, starts from how you set up. Whether you're a sole proprietor, a partnership, or a corporation. So we're happy to have those kinds of conversations with the startups. Then once you get going, we had conversations around the tax environment. You need to comply with whatever laws that already exist from a tax compliance. Or the regulatory element. We are talking about startups in the fintech space. Is it regulated? Are you embracing what the regulator actually requires you to be adhering to from the outset? There is a lot of information that is subject to data privacy. You know, are we dealing with that from the word go? Sitoyo talked about the protection of your IP. So we see a lot of room to engage on such topics. The other part that we then are good at, and I say good at, is a business advisory. So you're talking about how do you model your business, because you're intending to get other investors coming into the business. So you need to be thinking about that from the word go. Traditionally, we are then known as an audit firm, but audit over years has evolved. It's an assurance business. At the end of the day, you're packaging yourself as a business with the intention of bringing on investors. There are certain assurances that those investors want to get, and I believe we can then actually play a role in providing that assurance. Think about the Accelerator program itself. The investors or the funders would want certain assurances. Is this a success? How does success look like at the end of it all? We are talking about the first cohort. So the way we see PwC playing in this role is, both for the startups, whether it's the one-on-one mentoring, bringing our network of professions. We are 700 professionals in Kenya, but we are part of a bigger network. And we are involved in the startup ecosystem in other parts of the world. We're happy to bring that to bear as far as what the Spark Accelerator program is looking to do. So that's hopefully gives you a flavor, and hopefully that we still have a space to play despite startups being overly advised.
Yeah, no, thank you.
You see in the video that we have the CVC all over the world, and also the startup acceleration business in Japan and other countries. Not always our approach is successful. There are various failures. So we learned a lot from that failures. So I think Jesse mentioned that failure is good to continue the effort to make a bigger success. But of course, avoid that mistake. If you can share that failure and make that business model more, splendid. So I think Sumitomo can work to bring those international experience and experience of the failures to make startups successful. That's what I message.
Thank you very much. And it's a very interesting segue to Dr. Kagiso, because reflecting on failure and reflecting on experiences as Vodacom, as a lead within Vodacom's Startup Acceleration Unit, or the broad acceleration unit, you've over time been able to draw critical lessons and almost critical components that we need to build. So,
For example, we can look at M-PESA Africa as another such example. There are many examples we can further look into around the products that we have developed. What we've learned is that markets are different. We may have a framework that works in one market, but we need to look into specific market nuances and see how to adapt our offerings for those specific.
Newton, in his own way, he was an inventor in his own right. But he had this quote that if I see further, it's by standing on shoulders of giants. What we have today on stage are representatives of giants. And for us who are starting up new businesses, for us who seek to grow, we can see further by leveraging on these partnerships. Let's engage, let's connect in this forum and in outside these forums to ensure that we do leverage on partnerships, on strategic partnerships for that matter, to help us see further and grow our businesses. With that, I wish to thank you all for your attention, and please do enjoy the rest of the program. Thank you very much.
That was really, really fantastic. And I'd like to just take a moment, and I'd invite everyone to just stand up for a second. We've been sitting for quite a while, so you can stretch a little bit. And as we do that, if you have a comment and a burning question, we'd love to hear from you. We have a couple of roving mics. Yeah, so you can maybe stretch or whichever works for you. If you want to, turn around a little bit and, right here. I know Mbugwa, you want to have something to say.
My name is Mbugwa here. I think my comment would be first to just appreciate the journey from where we've come from. Originally, there was a set of people who had actually been, and I was happy to be part of that group that had been suggested by the larger community to try help Safaricom figure out community engagement. Because, and if I may use Kiswahili, Kitambo, Safaricom used to be looked at as a big, bad green giant. And the journey from there till now is fantastic and is amazing. And we need to talk about stories for a second. I mean, you've shown a short clip of where a company like Eneza Education is at now. But if you knew their origins, when the founder, Tony, came into the country and had been out in Siaya engaging with kids, you then realize and appreciate the place of corporate partnerships. And I remember that because when Tony, came to me once and she said, I'm on the last leg of things. Like, I need this thing to work. And at Safaricom, wearing what I call a vast mindset, there was no business model within Safaricom that could support them then. And what happened is Safaricom had a department that said, anything that is social in nature, bring it. And Eneza used to be called M-PESA then, was able to be incubated within Safaricom and walked into the various doors. And those numbers are unbelievable. Success has many suitors, but the stories must be told. Because only then will people understand why it is important to, one, not build in silence, don't build in stealth. Build out in public, be very vocal about what you're doing, and seek out some of these partnerships quite actively. So for me, it is to celebrate where we are at now. We've come from the point where Safaricom, I think I'd said, the Spark Fund was $1 million when a dollar was 90 bob. So it was 90 million shillings. So now it's great to see that, one, we contextualize investment in maybe Kenya shillings, but now where we're at now, a great place to be. Congratulations to everyone.
Fantastic. And we now have a very important moment for us all today. It's something that we've been waiting for. You've heard from the partners, you've heard from the startups, we've had really engaging, insightful conversations. And it is now time to spark the revolution. Give us a moment and we will give you a quick preview. Please dim the lights and start the video. It is now the start of the Spark Revolution.
Kenya, the technology hub of sub-Saharan Africa. A hotbed of talent and potential waiting to be unlocked. True to our mission of transforming lives, Safaricom, Sumitomo and M-PESA Africa aim to nurture, grow and scale commercially viable technology startups that drive positive societal impact. Through the Spark Accelerator, we will build the future with daring founders through a revolutionary acceleration program implemented by the iHub. We will empower startups with the tools they need to succeed by providing access to product and technology support, access to market, and access to capital. If you have a technology startup focused on embedded finance, future fintech, gaming and digital content, or SME productivity tools, this is your opportunity to have your startup nurtured, grown, and scaled. Apply today. Go to www.safaricom.co.ke/Spark Accelerator and let us provide you with the platform to grow and scale your business. Spark Accelerator, igniting the future of digital ecosystems. Proudly supported by Vodacom and AWS.
I'd like to invite Mr. Tadao Saida to please join us on stage. Mr. Peter Ndagwa, please join us on stage. And on behalf of Sitoyo, Mr. Felix Kamenga. Yeah. So on my cue, when you see the thumbprint of yes on that there, then you'll put your left hand. So we will start with Mr. Tadao Saida. Let's go ahead and do that. There we go. All right, fantastic. Yes. There we go. And access to market. Thank you very much. So just here. This is fine. Yeah. Or fantastic. So this is the moment that we've been waiting for, the grand culmination of all the work that has gone in to bring you the Spark Accelerator. And really, this is about synergy and bringing together chip collaboration and opening up opportunity for more innovation in our ecosystem with such brilliant partners. See, there is a short code here. Be able to access, so you can just it'll take you straight to the URL, which is safaricom.co.ke/Spark Accelerator. And we will take a moment now to take a couple of photos, not only for the media, but also for our internal media team. So we'll start with photo number 1, where we will just have all the three just stand behind us. Yeah. Perfect. You guys good? Fantastic. Thank you very much. We will now take this out, and please stay on stage for just one more moment. Could you please take this out? And for the media, this is one more photo, the photo number 1 with the 3 principals. They're on stage. I would like to welcome Michael Mutiga, Dr. Kagiso Rapetswa, Ojoma Ochai. Join them for one photo and then thank you very much. So just one more. You can do this. So just one more. Just one more. Thank you. And one of the questions that is coming up online is, how do I apply? What is the criteria? What more do I need to know in order to be part of Spark Accelerator? To give us more information about this program, I would like to welcome Nisi Madhu.
I'm to have a clicker. Okay, so I'm here as an evangelist for the program, and just basically highlighting again why, thank you so much, why if you're a startup building something interesting out there within any of our focus areas, why you should apply. And before I go into that, I just wanted to highlight a little bit, thank you, about iHub and CC Hub. And I talked about, on the panel, the fact that the ethos of our company is really about supporting startups to be able to solve key pain points and address, key needs across Africa and ensure that we're able to drive shared economic prosperity. And we like to describe ourselves as a Pan-African innovation enabler. And over the past 14 years, we have over 1,000 startups who can trace, their roots to CC Hub. And we've been able to invest over $10 million in startups directly through CC Hub, and also over $153 million directly through programs, acceleration, incubation programs that we have implemented with our partners. And also we have done these programs across 18 African countries, and we are in 4 African countries where we have locations in. And beyond that, I mentioned also the 4 key pillars that we support around. And in this acceleration program, we'll be catalyzing all of the support, resources, mentors, and networks that all the partners will be bringing on board as well. And beyond these 4 pillars is the access to potential equity funding, which we've highlighted. But also another key aspect is the strong community of founders that you would have access to. You must have heard where we mentioned about learning from failures and just learning in general. And this community helps you plug into, historicals and the experience of founders who have grown their businesses, who have learned from failures, and who would also be able to support you on this journey. As well as capacity building and advisory. I know Director Ori mentioned that startups had been advised enough, but beyond that, something key in this program is the hands-on support that will be provided and the guidance that you would also receive throughout the program. And the last bit as well is the access to a network of investors who would also be able to help on that journey as well. And so finally, if you are a startup interested in being a part of this and being a part of history in the making and taking advantage of the support that this program provides, please just scan that code and come together. Let's ignite the future of digital ecosystems in Africa together. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Nisi. And we have come to the tail end of the event, and it is my pleasure to invite my colleague, Kevin Mwasigwa, to give a vote of thanks. Welcome, Kevin.
Mwasigwa. I'm the project lead for the Spark Accelerator from Safaricom side. So I'll read the vote of thanks on behalf of the cross-functional team that made this possible today. And I read. So today marks a momentous occasion as we come together to celebrate the launch of the Spark Accelerator, a collaborative effort that would not have been possible without the support of our incredible partners. Some were present with us here, and others who would not make it to this event, but who have nonetheless made invaluable contributions to this launch. To the Safaricom board and Safaricom PLC's management, led by our CEO, Mr. Peter Ndagwa. We are grateful for the vision you set to become a purpose-led technology company and your commitment to actually catalyze innovation by providing a platform for daring founders to grow and scale their businesses. To the Sumitomo Corporation team, represented by Mr. Tadao Saida, we hereby express our immense gratitude and for your partnership and dedication in bringing this program to fruition. Your passion for empowering startups is evident, and we look forward to the positive impact this accelerator will have on the entrepreneurial landscape in Kenya and beyond. To M-PESA Africa team, the impact M-PESA has had and continues to have on millions of customers and businesses across multiple markets is testament to the power of meaningful innovation and a strong premise under which this accelerator program is founded and launched today. To our supporting partners at Vodacom and AWS, thank you for your guidance on the earlier stages of the development of the accelerator program and allowing us to learn with you and use this knowledge to build capabilities that have enabled the accelerator program to see the light of day. A special note of appreciation goes to our MC, Juliana Rotich, who is very well known in the startup ecosystem. Thank you for meticulously leading us through today's proceedings with a touch of enthusiasm, and your presence has truly enhanced the vibrancy of this event. I would also like to express our deepest gratitude to the insightful moderators and panelists whose valuable contributions have enriched our understanding of the startup landscape and the opportunities presented by collaboration between startups and corporates such as this one. To all who have given their dedicated support behind the scenes, your commitment for excellence has played a pivotal role in making today a success. Thank you for ensuring the seamless execution of this event. To the iHub team, a pioneering force within the Kenya startup ecosystem, your experience working with entrepreneurs and startups is invaluable, and we are excited to have you as the implementing partner for this program. And last but not least, a special thanks to the cross-functional team, Spark Accelerator project team, on behalf of whom I'm reading this vote of thanks. Your hard work, your passion, and unwavering dedication has made this day a reality, and you have been the driving force behind the realization of this program. And finally, to the startups that will be looking to join the Spark Accelerator program, you represent the promise of tomorrow. We're excited to provide a platform to accelerate your growth and welcome your participation, as well as learning opportunities this will bring. Your success will be a testament to the collaborative spirit that defines this program. Thank you to everyone for your invaluable contributions, and here's to igniting the future of digital ecosystems. Thank you.
Thank you so much. To the online audience, thank you so much for joining the live stream. This is where we say thank you, asante, arigato. The live stream will stop shortly. Thank you very much for joining us online. For those of you in the room, again, thank you for your attention and for joining us here for this really momentous occasion. And thank you also to all of our leaders for bringing us together and making this a reality. A big round of applause to every one of you.
Kenya, the technology hub of sub-Saharan Africa. A hotbed of talent and potential waiting to be unlocked. True to our mission of transforming lives, Safaricom, Sumitomo and M-PESA Africa aim to nurture, grow and scale commercially viable technology startups that drive positive societal impact. Through the Spark Accelerator, we will build the future with daring founders through a revolutionary acceleration program implemented by the iHub. We will empower startups with the tools they need to succeed by providing access to product and technology support, access to market, and access to capital. If you have a technology startup focused on embedded finance, future fintech, gaming and digital content, or SME productivity tools, this is your opportunity to have your startup nurtured, grown and scaled. Apply today. Go to www.safaricom.co.ke/Spark Accelerator and let us provide you with the platform to grow and scale your business. Spark Accelerator, igniting the future of digital ecosystems. Proudly supported by Vodacom and AWS.